What I enjoy the most about being an instructor is really those aha moments that the kids have. So I love being able not only to teach the kids, but be able to learn from them. And it's just, for me, it's very rewarding where, you get a group of talented, bright kids, or no matter whether, the skill level that they have in whatever we're going over. But really to see them when they get, whatever they were working at and the aha moment comes on, that's really the fun part. To me, I think the point of a teacher, at least from my perspective, is to be more of like a guide to a student. There's certain things, obviously, that I can teach you, but there's no better teacher than really experience and you getting hands on and getting your hands dirty. And so I always believe in I'm going to create a framework and I'm going to tell you what you need to know, and then I'm going to turn you loose and I'm going to say, go do it. And I don't expect you to get it the first time. There are a few who do, but in general, I'm expecting you to fail, and that's okay. I think, especially as it relates to the Duke Tip kids, a lot of them aren't used to failing. And so I tell every group I've taught with Duke Tip, I tell them the same thing. They ask, hey, Mr. Myers, what can we do to improve, or what's your advice for us? And I tell you, go fail. I'm not telling you go fail your classes, but try stuff, get uncomfortable, because the only way you learn is through kind of messing it up the first time, and you always learn something from it. So to me, I think, teachers, in my opinion, I think good teaching practices for teaching in general, and especially for Duke Tip kids, is how can we create frameworks where kids can really explore, they can dive deep, they can critically think and assess, and then they have a safe space where they can make those mistakes, learn from them, and then, get the correct answer, if you will, that experiential style learning. As a teacher, I don't really understand how you teach without a lesson plan or without some sort of kind of guide or plan. Um, the one thing about Duke Tip kids, and I'm stating the obvious, but they are really bright, they are really smart. And I learned this very quickly over the summer. You got to come prepared for these kids because they're going to challenge you. They're going to come right back at you, and that's a good thing. So you really need to, if you don't have a lesson plan, they're going to get bored pretty quickly. The first thing I want to do is I want to learn every kid and learn their name. So we start with, an exercise of, what's your name, what grade you're in, where you're from. And what I do is I immediately, like, as soon as you tell me your name, I'm calling it right back to you. And then, I go around doing that for every single kid. So within the first 5 minutes, I know everybody's name and at least your grade. Really, the best quality that a teacher needs to have is to be able to listen more than anything else. We probably talk the most, but we really need to be able to listen and read body language and just kind of be in tune with what kids are telling us, and what they're verbalizing and what they're doing. So the first thing is I get a glimpse into my kids by asking them their name. Then we do a few icebreakers just to kind of get the kids very comfortable with each other. And in those few moments, that kind of gives me some insight into who are my talkers, who are my leaders, who are the more quiet ones. You can kind of read a little bit of where kids are. So it's just trying to find that balance between acknowledging where the kids are, what they do well, and then pushing them a little out of their comfort zone. I was that kid who was always talking, who was the leader. So my uncomfortable zone was being quiet and letting other people, breathe. Of course, kids come from multiple backgrounds, different ways of life. So everybody sees everything differently. And the beautiful thing for them was that they could talk about it in a safe space. Okay, well, I see it this way. We're looking at the same exact thing, but I see it one way, you see it another way, and that's okay. How can we have civil discourse about that? The initial tendency, or at least my initial tendency when I first encountered it, was like almost to almost do too much, like push right back at it. Oh, I noticed it, and it's like, oh, I got to figure out how to immediately get this kid engaged. And I realized that it doesn't work quite the best, in my opinion, at least. So what I do is when I see a kid who's emotionally or a little, they seem disinterested in the course. They're only there because their parents made them go that morning. Honestly, I be patient with them. I focus on the kids who really are engaged. And what I do is I keep my eye on the kid who isn't quite as engaged. And so I try and find little ways to help them be more comfortable. I just say, hey, look, I just noticed that you seem a little reserved or not engaged. Tell me some things that. What are some things you really want to learn in this course? Like how can I make this better for you? So within the first, hour or so, or 30 minutes, whatever, if I'm noticing that you're not really engaged all the way, that's one of those things where I'm not obviously going to blast you in front of everybody, but I'm trying to find ways, how can I make you comfortable? And really at that point, because you signed up for this course, you're the one who needs to benefit. So tell me something you want to learn, and I can adjust pretty quickly or as best I can on the fly to incorporate that. First off, communication is key. I'm trying to improve on communication every day. But at least when it comes to your course, obviously they need to have your syllabus and your lesson plan so that they know what you're doing. And even if something comes up at the last minute, an emergency, God forbid, where you can't make it, at least they got that on file. If they can find a substitute for you, they have the plan. But even just for them knowing, like, okay, this teacher knows what he or she is doing. They got a game plan. Everybody feels good about it. Nobody's sweating. So you need to share that with them, your lesson plan and your syllabus. You also need to share your supply list with them. And if you got a bunch of supplies you need, I would advise don't wait till the night before if you can help it. But the earlier, the better. If you know you're going to need certain things, let them know that so that they can get it for you. Because one thing I will give due tip, when you ask for something, they get it for you. Now, I give them credit for that. They will get it for you. Everything I have asked for that I've needed, I say, hey, I need this. They say, Nate, we got you. So, so I just keeping those communication lines open. Obviously, I always start with what's my syllabus and lesson plan. Like, what's the overall game plan of what I'm doing, right? So that's my blueprint and my guide of knowing, all right, what are we going to do? What do I want the kids to get out of it? What supplies do I need to make that work? And then I start visualizing how the day is going to go. Do I need to put together any slides or anything? A couple slides, put that together. So that's how I start the preparation that way. Materials, what's the lesson plan, what's the game plan? And then really from that point, then I'll look over how many kids I got in the class so I can get my logistics of groups straight. Who's got certain allergies so I know what to keep out of the class and what to stay away from. If I know who my TA is beforehand, because I've had, I personally requested like a TA for certain courses because of, people who I work with and who I know, then I can already game plan me and my TA before we get there of what we're going to do. Makes life a lot easier. If I don't know the TA going in, then obviously meeting the TA before we start so that we can make sure we're on the same page and, starting the course. But that's normally how I prepare. First off, I come from a family of teachers. Grandmother was a teacher, taught 40 years. Dad taught 20 years, 25 years. Mom just retired from teaching. She taught 34 years. Older brother teaches in D.C., so I come from a family of teachers. And one of the biggest things that I learned from them, seeing how they did it was, and especially my dad, there's nothing more important than building relationships with people, especially the parents of the kids that you work with. If I'm working with your child, if you've trusted me enough to work with your child, then it's only right that I want to meet you as the parent so that I can tell you what we did. You're spending this money on this course. You want to know what your child learned. So that's always been my mentality when it comes to meeting the parents. Even before it was a requirement, it was, no, this is a good thing. If we're building relationships and you trust Duke Tip enough to send your child here, you obviously, if I was a parent, I am a parent, but you want to know what your child is learning. So I always turn it kind of into a presentation. So this is the fun part of the day for me. Once the kids finish everything that they're going to do for the day, right before the parents come in, we spend about 10 minutes where I tell the kids, all right, class, this is the time where you have to present to the parents what you did. Because, it's one thing to learn these soft skills like collaboration. It's another thing to practice those presenting skills. And a lot of the kids, as brilliant as they are, we need some help on those presentation skills. Not everybody can do that, but it's good to practice it. It's important because the parents can see, I sent my child away for a day or 2 days, and wow, this is what they got out of it. Normally, most parents tend to ask the question of, what do you recommend for my child to move forward? What's the next step? I always get that question. What's the next step for my child? And that easily opens up the door for me to reiterate what I always reiterate to the kids, which is a few things. One, you're in the Duke Tip program. So the fact that you decided to spend your Saturday doing this compared to doing something else means you're probably already ahead of the curve compared to other kids. So keep doing what you're doing. Keep being involved in extracurriculars. And above all else, as I tell the kids, fail, And of course, I explain that to the parents, and they nod their head and they go, oh, yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, that's how I handle it with the parents.